They said I should be grateful they took me in. I stayed quiet until I found the letter they never meant for me to see. My name is Tessa Reed, a 34-year-old geneticist who had spent years unraveling mysteries in Savannah's humid labs, a journey far removed from the rigid expectations my adoptive family imposed with unrelenting control. It was June 2025, and the family reunion unfolded at a grand antebellum mansion on the outskirts of Savannah, its sprawling oaks draped in Spanish moss and its verandas echoing with the clink of sweet tea glasses. A picturesque setting for a gathering meant to celebrate my brother Marcus's recent promotion to hospital administrator, a role that cemented his status in their eyes. The air was heavy with the scent of magnolia blossoms and the soft hum of cicadas, the summer light casting long shadows over the manicured lawn where relatives mingled in pastel dresses and suits, their laughter a stark contrast to the tension I felt. I'd been summoned as an afterthought, a peripheral figure amid their pride: my family, my adoptive mother, Eleanor, a stern socialite with a knack for appearances; my adoptive father, a retired judge with a love for tradition; and Marcus, the golden child, radiating approval over his rise, his success a mirror they held up to my perceived failures. "You should be grateful we took you in," Eleanor had said during the pre-dinner toast, her voice sharp with judgment, my father nodding with a curt smile, their words a chain I couldn't break, their praise for Marcus a constant reminder of my outsider status. I sat quietly at the edge of the veranda, my lab coat, creased from a late-night experiment, standing out against the polished attire, my fingers nervously tracing a notebook filled with DNA sequences and research notes. They were oblivious to my work, GeneLegacy, a genetic research project I'd started 5 years ago with $4,000 from a science fair prize, now valued at $29,000 and earning $2,600 monthly from medical grants. The remark stung, a public reinforcement of my adopted burden, but it was the letter I found later that night that turned everything upside down. Tucked in an old trunk in the attic, amidst yellowed photo albums and faded linens, I discovered a sealed envelope addressed to me in Eleanor's handwriting, its edges worn but unopened. The words inside revealed a secret that shattered their narrative. I wasn't a random adoption but the biological child of Eleanor's late sister, hidden to protect a family scandal involving a disgraced doctor. My heart raced, a mix of shock and fury, as the letter detailed how they'd claimed me to avoid public shame, raising me as an adopted daughter to bury the truth. The document hinted at a genetic condition tied to my lineage, a clue they'd suppressed, perhaps fearing my research would expose it. Why the deception? I had no answer, but the discovery ignited a fire as I slipped out into the humid Savannah night, the moss-draped oaks a canopy to my swirling thoughts, each rustle a question. Our backstory was a web of family tension and hidden resentment, woven into Savannah's historic squares. Growing up in the Victorian district with its cobblestone streets and wrought iron gates, I was the odd child, always dissecting plants in the garden while Marcus excelled in medicine, his charisma earning accolades. Our divide widened when I chose genetic research in 2016, rejecting Eleanor's push for social graces, her charity galas, or my father's legal legacy, a path they deemed impractical. Marcus thrived at the hospital, his engagement to a surgeon a triumph, while I built GeneLegacy in a rented lab near the Savannah River, the city's salty breeze a companion to my late-night gene mapping fueled by determination. By 2020, I'd secured a $6,000 grant from a biotech firm, hiring a mentor, Dr. Nadia Patel, for $1,100, her guidance a beacon, my savings reaching $4,600 as I identified a rare mutation. The reunion exposed their dismissal, fueling my resolve. The letter suggested a deeper link. Had they feared my research would uncover their lie? A mystery that lingered as I drove home, the river's reflection shimmering under the streetlights, each glimmer a clue. The journey began with fierce resolve, a silent vow under the lab's sterile light. I returned to my space, the faint hum of the river audible through the window, and reviewed GeneLegacy's progress, my workbench cluttered with test tubes and genetic charts, a map of my ambitions etched in data and grit. My latest breakthrough, a gene therapy for a rare disease, had gained traction with a $1,200 grant from a health foundation, a win that spurred me. I worked 60-hour weeks, my eyes strained from microscopes, guided by Nadia's insight into Marcus's hospital practices, a gap I could exploit with my innovative therapy. My savings rose to $5,500, and I invested $1,800 in advanced sequencing equipment, projecting $3,400 returns. At a medical conference in July 2025, held in a hall with the scent of antiseptic, I presented my findings, earning a $1,400 contract from a pharma company, my voice steady despite my nerves. But Marcus's presence, networking with donors, his white coat a symbol of authority, unsettled me, his glance toward my poster a chilling moment. Could I challenge a medical titan? I pressed on, drafting a plan on a cafe napkin in the rain, the ink smearing, a symbol of my fight against family deception and his dominance. The confrontation simmered as I met Nadia, her data showing Marcus's vulnerabilities. Outshine him, she urged. A former colleague, Javier, warned of sabotage, fueling my ambition to turn their ingratitude into my discovery. I expanded GeneLegacy with a $3,300 grant, savings at $6,800, valuation at $32,000. Javier's caution about Marcus's ties was ignored. A rival lab stole my data linked to Marcus, costing me a $1,600 grant, a loss that stung. The supplier cut my reagents, citing his pressure. Was this sabotage? In my lab, rain tapping, I felt the reunion's sting and a rising challenge. What did Marcus know, and why the hidden letter? The sting of my mother's ungrateful remark and the shocking letter lingered as I stood in my Savannah lab, the faint glow of the Savannah River reflecting through the window, its gentle current a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. The $1,400 pharma contract was a fragile victory, my savings at $6,800, but the $1,600 grant loss to a stolen dataset and the reagent supplier's cut-off gnawed at me, signs of Marcus's influence tightening its grip. Was this sabotage to bury my breakthrough? My hands, rough from handling pipettes, trembled as I sequenced a new DNA strand, the sterile scent of ethanol blurring with my racing thoughts. Nadia's faith in my genetics was a lifeline, but doubt crept in. Could I withstand a hospital administrator's power? I called Javier, his voice tense over the line, confirming Marcus's history of suppressing rivals. He'll derail you if he can, he warned. I steeled myself, the hum of the centrifuge a steady pulse, determined to turn their deception into my discovery. The next week, I met Nadia at a co-working space near the historic district, the scent of fresh coffee and the murmur of freelancers grounding me amid the tension. Her furrowed brow scanned the stolen data report and the supplier's rejection, the papers crinkling under her fingers. This is deliberate, she said, sketching a plan: secure new samples, boost visibility, expose Marcus's tactics. I nodded, the clink of a spoon a rhythmic beat, and contacted underground biotech contacts, their cautious interest a glimmer of hope. I launched a GeneRise crowdfunding campaign, investing $1,500 from my savings, now at $5,300, projecting $3,200 returns to fund deeper research. In the lab, I briefed my small team, a lab assistant, a data analyst. In the sterile space, the air thick with the hum of equipment. We're targeted, I explained, showing the evidence, my voice firm despite their concerned glances. Their nods, a blend of resolve and support, bolstered me, their loyalty a shield. My valuation rose to $34,000, a number both promising and precarious. My ascent gained momentum, a surge of purpose driving my microscope. I secured a $2,700 grant with a genetic health nonprofit, their enthusiasm lifting my spirits, and invested $1,200 in enhanced sequencing tools, projecting $2,500 returns. My savings stabilized at $5,600, and I upgraded the lab with better ventilation, working 65-hour weeks to refine my gene therapy amid Savannah's competitive research scene, the city's humid air a constant companion. Javier called, his voice laced with worry, urging caution against Marcus's retaliation, his own scars from a sabotage trial fresh. But I hung up, his advice a distraction, my focus sharpening with each base pair. The grant added $1,700 monthly, a steady flow that fueled my confidence. Nadia's update unsettled me. Marcus had been seen with hospital board members, his influence pushing a smear campaign against my credibility, their alliance a calculated move. He's protecting his empire, Nadia said, her tone grim. But his patient reviews are slipping. People want innovation. The rivalry burned, pushing me to outsequence them all. The pressure escalated a month later, a test of my endurance. I hosted a virtual symposium on my platform, the digital room alive with the hum of 250 attendees, earning a $2,300 pledge for my next therapy. But tension brewed. Marcus's hospital released a similar treatment, their smirk a challenge, and a critic's blog hinted at his sway, questioning my originality. My heart sank, the trust I'd built now shadowed, but I adjusted my pitch, dipping my savings to $4,900. A legal notice arrived, vague but threatening, suggesting Marcus's network was probing my lab's compliance, a subtle intimidation that quickened my pulse. Was this his move? I consulted Nadia, her analysis suggesting a public challenge to reclaim the narrative. I agreed, planning a live demo to unveil my therapy, the risk heightening my resolve. The event, streamed from the lab under the glow of LED lights, drew 300 viewers, my hands steady as I explained its impact. The chat's cheers were a boost, but Marcus's hospital preempted with a rebuttal, his presence a digital shadow, his expression cold, sending a chill. Support surged, lifting my pledges to $2,400 monthly, yet the pressure mounted. The rivalry deepened as Javier visited, his face etched with concern, bringing news of Marcus's faltering reputation. He's losing trust, he said, sharing data on his hospital's 13% patient drop since my rise. I seized the opportunity, launching a GeneLegacy campaign to counter his narrative, their support a digital wave that fortified my base. I secured the lab, adding $1,100 in security and a part-time technician, my savings at $3,800, the team's spirit a bond against the storm. But sabotage struck. Marcus's ally tampered with my equipment, delaying a $1,500 trial, the betrayal a bitter pill. I reported it to biotech regulators, their probes slow but promising, my frustration simmering. Marcus's shadow loomed larger, his reunion indifference now a riddle. Had he known the letter's truth? Standing in the lab, the river's glow casting warmth, I felt the reunion's wound and a challenge that tested my every gene. The truth was close, but what would it cost? The tampered equipment and Marcus's cold rebuttal from the live demo haunted me as I stood in my Savannah lab, the hum of the Savannah River's flow casting a faint rhythm through the open window, its murky waters reflecting the first light of dawn against the moss-draped oaks outside. The GeneLegacy campaign had rallied medical advocates, boosting my pledges to $2,800 monthly, my savings at $3,800, but the sabotage and legal threats loomed large, the air thick with the sterile scent of antiseptics and the sharp edge of uncertainty that clung to my skin. The truth behind Marcus's indifference and the letter's secret was tantalizingly close, a genetic code I could almost crack, yet the cost, financial strain, family betrayal, hung heavy, a shadow over my every sequence. My hands, rough from endless pipetting, steadied as I ran a new trial, the sequencer's beep a metronome to my resolve. Javier's warning about Marcus's desperation echoed, and I knew the next move was mine, to confront the past and claim my genetic legacy. The investigation into the tampered equipment broke open the following week, a turning point that shifted the narrative. Biotech regulators, spurred by my report and public outrage, raided Marcus's hospital lab, the clatter of their inspection echoing through Savannah's medical district as they uncovered manipulated trial data linked to his network, a scheme to discredit my therapy. The news spread like wildfire across health forums, the city's cafes buzzing with murmurs and the tap of screens. My name cleared as patients turned against Marcus's tactics with a fervor that surprised me. I felt a surge of vindication, a warmth spreading through my veins, but the $1,500 delayed trial remained a bitter pill, its loss a constant reminder. Nadia called, her voice triumphant over the static line, sharing data on Marcus's hospital losing 16% patient trust since my rise, and a cryptic hospital memo hinting at a past cover-up he'd orchestrated. "He's panicking," she said, her tone sharp with opportunity. "Strike now." I seized the moment, launching a gene reveal symposium at the Savannah Convention Center, investing $1,200 from my dwindling savings, now at $2,600, showcasing my therapy's potential. The event drew 250 attendees, the hall alive with the scent of coffee and the hum of approval, earning a $3,500 grant from a global health initiative, a milestone that lifted my valuation to $40,000. The rivalry reached its crescendo as I prepared for the symposium's climax, the air thick with anticipation. I invited Marcus, hoping to bridge the family divide that had fueled my drive, his presence at the center a rare sight, his tailored suit a contrast to my lab-stained coat, the fabric whispering of his world. His eyes narrowed as he reviewed my data slides, a flicker of unease breaking through his usual confidence, a silent acknowledgement that shifted our dynamic, but he warned me of a counterattack, legal pressure from his hospital board, a subtle threat to my lab's licensing. The news tightened my chest, a vice of anxiety, yet it fueled my defiance, a fire stoked by that reunion's slight. I collaborated with the GeneLegacy community, staging a public forum to challenge Marcus's medical monopoly, the Forsyth Park packed with 350 supporters under a sultry evening sky, their applause a thunderous echo against his influence. My voice quivered as I presented the tampering evidence and the cover-up, a 2018 data falsification. The crowd's cheers a tidal wave that drowned his reputation, boosting my grants to $3,400 monthly. But the cost was steep. Marcus's lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, its crisp pages a paper tiger I handed to Nadia, who advised a strategic retreat to avoid escalation, her wisdom a lifeline amid the chaos. The truth emerged in a quiet, revelatory moment, a connection that tied the reunion to my present fight. Javier visited on a humid night, his hands clutching faded lab notes from a 2019 experiment I'd conducted, notes Marcus had stolen, presenting them as his own to secure his promotion, a move that had cost me recognition and fueled his rise. His indifference at the reunion wasn't ignorance of my success, but guilt over that theft, a secret he'd buried as my research grew. The realization hit like a gene mutation, my anger a searing flame mingled with a strange relief, the weight of years lifting slightly. I confronted him at the symposium's Q&A, the room hushed as I laid out the notes, his eyes avoiding mine, his silence a confession that spoke louder than words. The audience's murmurs grew into a wave, his credibility crumbling like brittle DNA, my victory sealed not in court but in the court of public opinion. My savings dipped to $1,400 with legal fees, a sacrifice I bore willingly, but my valuation soared to $43,000, a number reflecting my resilience. The aftermath reshaped my world with a quiet strength. I secured a $4,800 contract with a genetic research institute, their trust a balm, my monthly earnings reaching $3,700, a steady beat that steadied my pulse. I upgraded the lab with a new sequencer, its precise hum a song of progress, and began a memoir, Unraveled Roots, its pages a raw testament to my journey, each word a stroke of healing. Marcus's visit softened our rift slightly, his reluctant apology a fragile bridge, his presence a rare warmth amid the lab's cool air, while his hospital faced a patient boycott, his influence waning like a fading pulse. Yet peace wavered when an anonymous email arrived. You've won this round, but your past isn't buried. I froze, the screen trembling under my fingers, Nadia tracing it to a burner account, likely a remnant of Marcus's circle. I hired a cybersecurity expert for $900, my savings dropping to $500, the lab now a fortified space with encrypted locks. Standing amid my equipment, the river aglow with dawn's first light, I felt a hard-won triumph, the sequencer's warmth my ally. But the email hinted at shadows. Marcus's ally? A deeper family secret? I sipped water, the coolness grounding me, ready for whatever challenge lay encoded ahead. Hey Revenge Tempest fans. Tessa's journey from outcast to genetic pioneer is electrifying. Loved it? Hit that subscribe button and join our community. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from.